Hi everybody, we are Mike and Brenda Baker, and today we're going to talk about co-parenting versus parental management. And so navigating blended family challenges with an uncooperative ex. I know that's a lot, but we're going to do it right now.
All right.
Sorry.
In case you missed some of that, we're doing co-parenting versus parental management. Now, this is not something that you're probably going to find anywhere else because it's something, quite honestly, we've taught. So it has to do with navigating blended family challenges with an uncooperative ex. Now, look, there are a number of blended family influencers out there now that get along with their exes. And I think that's great. And if you can do that, I think it's great. And I have met exes. I've met people who get along, like women especially, not as much the men, women especially who get along great with the stepmom, and they talk and they get together and they have drinks together. I mean, I think it's awesome. Unfortunately, there are still more that I know and that I come across not so great. And so when we get questions, something that really stood out to us was that there is a huge difference between co-parenting and parental management.
Yeah.
So as we get into this, let's get into the first thing, which is, what is the difference? So the difference would be, co-parenting is when you can parent with your ex, or you can parent with your spouse's ex in a manner in which both of you generally agree. Don't have to agree on everything. Just means, hey, little Bobby's got baseball. I'm not going to be able to pick him up. Can you pick him up? The other one's like, yeah, I got him. Hey, little Bobby got in trouble at school today, and his punishment was he can't watch TV, he can't look at his phone, whatever it is little Bobby's got. And the other parent is like, got it, and they carry on. That is co-parenting. Okay, it goes both directions. Parental management is when you have an uncooperative ex and you have to manage the parenting on both sides, which means that there's always difficulty. Okay, so you always have to manage, is today the day I say something, or is today the day I just let it go? Do I really need to press this issue? Do I really need to let it go? This thing that they're expecting of me, is it worth the fight? Is it not worth the fight? That's not co-parenting, by the way.
Yeah.
Not co-parenting, all right? In a lot of cases, it's narcissism, but we're not talking about that in this video. So the difference simply is two, three, four people who can actually get along and communicate well and work together as a team, even if they don't necessarily like each other. And as compared to parental management, which is, it's kind of like herding cats, unfortunately. Okay, do you have something you want on that?
No.
Okay, so that'll actually bring us rather quickly into number two, and this will all start to make a lot more sense. This is not a competition. The reason co-parenting works amongst 2, 3, 4 parents is because they have decided that although their marriages are vastly important, a great marriage is the best gift you can give your kids. But they also recognize that as a unit, because now they are a team, whether they want to be or not, they are all involved in one another's lives until this kid is 18 and doing their own thing.
Until after they're married, actually.
Yeah. So they choose to put themselves aside. Doesn't mean they put the marriage aside. They put themselves aside for the sake of not stressing the kids any more than they're already stressed. Okay? So look, there are so many angry people, especially nowadays. I would say that the anger quotient has gone up tenfold just since 10 years ago or 15 years ago when we started counseling. When we started counseling couples. All right, now there is just division after division after division, and then that division just links into all these other things, making it 5 times worse than it was. So one parent is like, well, for instance, my ex looked at me one day and said, I let the kids do all the things that you won't let them do so that they'll like me more. And those are her words. I'm not exaggerating that. That is a direct quote, so that they'll like me more. Well,
That's for sure.
she knows I'm not a competitive person, right? But she was. And it was always about who had to like who best, who had to get along best, who had to be the better parent.
Well, and I guess the whole focus here, stop focusing on the dot. The dot isn't your ex, okay? It has little to nothing to do with your ex anymore. It's what's best for the kids, right? And that's what I feel that we really, really tried hard to do, is keep that in mind and make every decision that we made according to what was best for them. Now, we already knew what kind of genes they had in them, right? Because, each of us was part of their genes. With my son that I brought into the marriage, I knew that he was already stubborn. I'm pretty stubborn. He was a pretty hard kid, I would say. But I knew that about him. I already knew. And so I couldn't get too angry at him because I'm the same way in some ways. So knowing exactly what you're trying to do, make your decisions on those things, and don't worry about what's happening at the other household. Now, what we're not talking about is if there's abuse or neglect.
Different
Be
story.
involved in that.
That's a different story. Yeah.
Be involved in that. If your kids, if something comes up about that, figure out how to deal with that. But we're not talking about that here.
Let me explain a little bit of what I am talking about. I'm talking about the constant wellness visits just to get something recorded for the court.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the constant, your kid doesn't have the clothes they need or the food they need or whatever, and so you're always having to provide it, whereas there's just nothing but excuses from the other side. Now, let me be very clear, because I believe in transparency. There was a short time there in the beginning when I was not a very good dad to my kids because I did not know what I was doing. All right, and I'll be the first to admit that. I didn't have food in the house. I was a wreck. Okay, and this was after the divorce. This was before I married Brenda. It was after my first divorce. And so I was a wreck and I was not a great dad. But that was fairly short-lived, all right? Because I figured out I've got to pull some stuff together. Brenda and I met. Then I realized I really need to pull some stuff together. And so the majority of my fatherhood, I would say that I was absolutely 110% dedicated to my family and being the best dad I could, especially since I made this tremendous mistake that was going to hurt my boys, later on. And so it's very important to understand that when I say competition, maybe it doesn't feel like competition to you. Maybe it feels like a constant dig. Well, what that is you're trying to chip away at your character. And maybe you're the one who's trying to chip away at somebody else's character. And if you are, stop it. It is not worth it, because that's going to jump me right into number 3. And there's a reason I'm jumping ahead now. Remember that every decision you make has collateral damage. So let me tell you this way. My ex was not happy with the happiness that Brenda and I had. We were very happy, and we've been very happy for a long time. Doesn't mean we never fought.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that things didn't happen. Doesn't mean that we got along always. Doesn't mean that we didn't have some knockdown, drag out fights here and there. But I'm telling you for a fact, there was jealousy there. And so what she would do is use my kids to try to destroy the relationship, drive a wedge, because she was unhappy. So although it may not feel like competition, that's what it is. If I can't have that, you can have that. All right. I'll bet I can do this better than you can. And so if you're driving, oh my goodness, we just did a video on why words matter. This is not a competition. Do what needs to be done for your relationship, but especially for the kids, because this is my point. Although my ex's point was to hurt me, she would step on the kids first and then Brenda to try to do it. That collateral damage was the kids first. So anytime you make a choice, anytime you open your mouth and stick your foot in it, remember you always have an opportunity to go back and fix that or apologize. And let me tell you, there is nothing worse than having to apologize to a person that you don't feel deserves an apology. And I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it. In fact, just quickly, there were many times when Brenda and I were first married, where she did not understand why I put up with what I put up with. Because Brenda's very, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda is not, I don't want to make her sound like she's going to come over to your house and beat you up aggressive, but she's more of an aggressive, she's an extrovert. And so she's more aggressive. She's very competitive, and she marries me.
And very passionate.
I don't like sports. I don't like competition, and I'm very introverted. But at the same time, I do have a line. But she always wondered why it appeared like I was letting my ex just walk all over me. And it's because I very much understood the collateral damage that was going to happen to the boys. Now, one could make the argument because my oldest two boys and I don't talk. All right. Not going to go into why here. But what I can tell you is that was not a lack of effort on my part. That was not because I didn't do the right thing. And it was not because I didn't try 150% to make that work. Okay, so you just got to remember that collateral damage will come from either side. Don't be the reason that collateral damage happens. If collateral damage is going to happen, please make sure that someday those kids have a reason to come back and talk to you.
You know, one of the things that I was just thinking about, which hopefully you're okay with me bringing this up, but one of the things that we really could have done, because at one point in our younger years, we thought, okay, this is causing so much damage to the kids. Would it be better if we just moved away and we only saw them in the summers and a week at Christmas and whatever? And what we came to through a lot of prayer and a whole lot of tears was that it was not the best thing for them. So we needed to stay in Montana where they were at any cost. And so we did. And I don't regret that at all. Montana was extremely hard for us to live in because we definitely had a lot of negative there. A lot, from a lot of different sources. But it wasn't the most healthy for us, but we were always thinking of what was best for them. Was it best for our other three boys?
The oldest three?
No.
Oh, the other. Well, they're still there, so
yeah, but
it must have been okay.
I don't know if it was the best decision for them, but we had to consider all sides and do the best with what we had, and use the wisdom that we had. And unfortunately for us, we did not have a big pool of people that we could ask who had been through this situation. That is the number one reason why we started this channel, is we want you to be able to ask questions. We want to be able to give information, and then you have questions from there. You can ask us. I always reply. And this is why we're here. We're not doing this because of any other reason besides the fact that we want you to be able to have Christian, good, wise advice. Have we done everything right? No. But there's a lot that we have done right, and we want to impart that wisdom on you and tell you what we've done wrong. And so that's why we're here.
So let me be transparent on something here. Now, some of you heard that we thought about moving away. All right. Now, I did have a group of men at the church I was going to pull me aside and advise me that wouldn't be a good idea. Now, what I'd like to say is, to this day, I'm very appreciative that they did that. Okay. But at the same time, that was the only time that group of men pulled me aside to do anything like that. And maybe things might have been different if somebody had said something before that point. Okay. Now, I'm not knocking them. I'm simply saying that any relationship worth having, if you see somebody who's struggling as a Christian, and especially in a blended family situation, and you come to them lovingly, don't be afraid to say something, because sometimes people are just looking for that one person to show up. All right. Now, but my point here is how some of you are probably thinking, how could you think about moving away like that? All right. Look, what you may not realize just from this one video is we were constantly in court with her ex, with her ex in-laws, with my ex. I had constant visits from child services for false allegations up the wazoo. We were constantly under pressure. We were constantly under the thumb. We had to borrow money from the church, to be perfectly honest, to help pay for all the court costs. I was the sole income, and we were barely making it. Barely making it. All right? You have no idea what that kind of pressure is like. And then finally, I had 3 other boys who still desperately needed us. And I had to consider what was going on for them. Why did we consider that? Because at that point we thought, is it time to cut our losses and do the best we can with what we still have here? And I'm glad we didn't. But under the circumstances, please, and a lot of you out there understand what I'm talking about. Some of you maybe not so much. But the amount of pressure that can come with all of that constant beating and battling, I'm telling you right now, collateral damage.
Yeah.
Remember who it is that takes the first hit. It's your kids.
Yeah. And I would say that your marriage takes the second biggest hit, because I didn't know anything about this. Mike's parents stayed married. My parents stayed married. Neither one of us really knew what that was going to look like. And it was hard. It was financially terrible because we were in a one income. Honestly, at times it felt so heavy that I didn't know how we were going to make it through. Thankfully, we were able to figure it out. We were able to just stop thinking about all of it and just move forward the best we could each day. And so if you're in a struggling situation right now where the exes or one of the exes is constantly, doing things, bringing things up, pitting against you, whatever, the 5-minute rule is your best friend. And I still struggle with this personally. Sometimes I want to hold on and still be angry about things long after the 5 minutes. But if I would have known about the 5-minute rule then, I could have been more of a master of it now. But I digressed. The 5-minute rule is basically, if you don't know about it, you basically are able to use that 5 minutes to be angry, yell, kick, scream at yourself or the room or your pillow or whatever, to get it out. Complain about it, yell about it, cry about it, whatever. And then after that 5 minutes, you're to move on. You're just supposed to let it go.
Yeah,
nothing more. Now, I still struggle with that, but I'm way better than I used to be most of the time. But yeah, take that and use that to your ability, to your best ability. Because having a peaceful household is what you really need for your family to thrive. And I would say that eventually we were able to get that ball rolling. And then, mostly I would say when Mike was like completely overwhelmed and down, I was up. And so I could help him and vice versa. And so definitely, pull your spouse along sometimes, because sometimes that's what they need. But just remember, every single decision that you make does have a consequence, whether it be good or bad. You have to decide what that looks like.
Yeah. Just remember, a reward is something earned. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always positive.
Yeah, very true. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. So with that, like I told you before, we started this channel for you. You are the reason we are here. We want to help you. We want to encourage you. We want to be there for you if we can, give advice and that sort of thing. So if you have anything that came up during this video, please leave a comment down below. I answer all of them, I think. I don't think I've missed any. And I will get right back to you. I try to get them. I look every single day, several times a day, actually, to be sure that I'm not missing people. So leave a comment. If you're not a subscriber, we encourage you to subscribe. Our book is going to be coming out here in the next little bit here. It is not going to happen on the 11th as we had hoped. However, it's still going to be this month. So we are super excited that you were here with us today. We hope this helped you, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.